could use me on defense on one of those things too. There wasn't a whole lot of that going on, but this is fun to watch. It was fun. Bowles really, that was surprising. Just and she didn't have much faith in her to start playoffs a couple years ago. Playoffs, it was like the Saints. Yeah. On that Saints. His problem was he wouldn't take a shot down the field. Last night he didn't have any problem throwing that ball down the field.
Throwing it down the field.
Well, he got to every once in a while.
And I couldn't find my remote, so I'm really.
Yeah, it was a fun one.
Whatever.
I kept thinking, man, Brady's going to come back. He's really good for it. He's the greatest dude. I mean, I'm not a fan of his per se, but I mean, I'm not going to deny what the man is doing there. I mean, he's incredible. Just to have played in 18. Phenomenal. Got to respect him. And he says he's got 3-4 more years in him, which I find it hard to believe. He's in phenomenal shape, but man, I don't know, it's a 44, 45-year-old body, that's what it'll be at that time.
We'll be able to withstand.
Yeah, man, those guys hit hard. Did you see that one lift last night? That's about one of the hardest hits I've ever seen where a guy was standing still. He got he used to be a saint too, so I kind of he tried to hurdle that guy.
Yeah, he got caught.
Then he stopped the momentum completely there, and then that didn't work out too well for him at all either.
No.
If you're a receiver and a linebacker against you, no. He woke up, so he might have thought the Super Bowl hadn't been played yet.
Yeah.
That's what I told Charlie. I said, he says, he gonna get up that? I said, yeah, I figure after a while. I said, he's gonna be down there for a little while, Chuck. So I said, is that illegal to hit that? I said, no. I said, the guy had his eyes up. He had his eyes up. I said, just get his helmet touch first, son. I said, if your eyes are up and you're seeing what you're hitting, you're doing all right. People change levels. They fall down. There's nothing good with that. I said, but he didn't leave. Spirit motion. I said, no, that's a clean deal. He goes, okay. That's what I keep telling him. He's going to play Pee Wee next year. And he's playing flag, but this will be the first time, they pad up. See what you hit.
Oh. Okay. So how many we get?
That's the move.
Need more.
I finally got tired of helping my out here with the deal. My grandmother said I guess she stuffed a little bag on her today when she got work. She said, I was able to get another one in there. And I went out there to drag it back up to the house. I said, that bag on cap. She said, why? I said, you reached it down there some top, there's still one in the bottom. She just looked at me like, she said, I was proud of myself getting that one in there too. I said, yeah. It becomes a struggle some weeks, but drag it all in there.
He's running late. He'll be here.
Oh, okay.
Who
What
is
about Josh?
I hadn't heard from Josh.
Who's running late?
Nick.
Here we go. Yeah, I believe they were too.
Doug. Douglas.
Oh, you got it.
Okay, sorry for the late start. We had to have a quorum. So anyway, as usual, I'm going to have before we open up the meeting, we're going to have a prayer from Doug McDowell.
Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we're thankful to you for this day, and we're thankful to you for all the blessings that you bestow upon us. We're grateful to you for your love and for the sacrifice of your Son, for the forgiveness of our sins. We're thankful to you for this council and the mayor, and we pray that you would be with them as they meet tonight to discuss the city business. That you would grant to them a portion of your wisdom, that they might know those things to do to be of most benefit to this community. That they might look out for the good of all of the community. Be with each one of us, and we might strive to support our town in every way that we possibly can. Be with us always. Forgive us of our sins. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Meredith,
Here.
Grantham,
Here.
Rogers,
Here.
Duckworth,
Here.
Bulletin,
Here.
Partee,
Here.
Rittenberry,
Here.
absent.
Okay. First of all, next order of business is approval of minutes of the regular meeting of January the 18th, 2018.
So moved.
Meredith,
Yes.
Grantham,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Duckworth,
Abstain.
Bulletin, Partee,
Abstain.
Rittenberry,
Yes.
All right. Next thing, approval of reports and bills.
So moved.
Second.
Meredith,
Yes.
Grantham,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Duckworth,
Yes.
Bulletin, Partee,
Yes.
Rittenberry,
Yes.
And the next thing under presentation of communications, we have a letter from the Creswell Golf Club. It says it's actually Creswell Golf Association, that it would like to extend the agreement that they have, the lease for an additional 10-year period, and that starts on April the 1st of 2018. And this is more for informational purposes, so they decided to do that. So no need to call, no need for a vote.
Yeah, they had they had an option to extend
Right.
it for an additional 10 years in the contract.
Okay.
Just had to notify us in 60 days.
That's right.
All right. Anything else in the presentations of petitions, letters, and other communications? All right. Unfinished business. We have any unfinished business?
I wasn't here last time, but have we got the contract for MoDOT yet?
Yes.
We did at the last meeting. Okay.
All right. The under reports, any other unfinished business? Under reports, the mayor's report. Okay. I spoke to Mr. Rosen today, and he said that he is still waiting word from the investor from Nevada on the economic development. We have our contract yet
For
between the Arts Council and the city?
No, haven't met with the Arts Council yet. So.
Well, the money's sitting there. Okay, and as I've discussed, Liberty Utilities tomorrow starts the Public Service Commission's discovery period, and then after that, then they will set rate hearings. Then the brownfields, Mr. Reeves still has indicated there's some movement in the state court system, but it's slow. The airport car, the city of Porterville is keeping the 2006 Crown Vic because their police car blew a motor, And so they're keeping that car. And so anyway, now we're back to square one, that we do not have an airport car. So so I would suggest probably that we go ahead and do the state surplus property, but set a limit as to how much we're going to spend. So I'd like someone to discuss that. What do you think? How much? I mean,
I think we need to go on and get it done. I don't know about how much we need to spend.
well,
Can we get some prices? I mean, get the bid and let us know what it is?
these are surplus vehicles, and they just, you know, that other public entities have given up or whatever, state or federal, and so they tell you what the price is, and that's what the price is. So you can spend basically as little or much as you want. So, you know, probably a good car is $7,500, but they're smaller and cheaper, and there's higher and more. So just kind of need to set an amount. Yes, sir?
What you're talking about on those cars, the state surplus, we just had to fill out our paperwork for it. I gave to Tequila, and the mayor had to sign it for us. The vehicles that the governor, if y'all recently seen it, where he took the vehicles that was just sitting there, they got them at the surplus now. There's quite a bit. Jerry was just up there, he had to take some stuff to the crime lab in Jefferson City. He said they got quite a bit of vehicles right there to surplus. And get them at the state. They, like he said, there's a price set that the state have, and that's what you'll pay for the vehicles.
And the thing you gotta remember on that is, if they got high mileage, the price is gonna be lower. If you got lower mileage, you're gonna get a better price. The ones that I was looking at before, you start talking about the Porterville car was somewhere around $9,600, and that was for like 39,000 miles on the car.
Or you can go higher mileage. Since the vehicle is not driven much, to me, since the vehicle is not driven much, it seemed wiser to pick one with higher mileage, because you're not going to add that many miles that frequently.
How old a car do we want?
Pardon me?
How old of a car do we want, or how? old of a car?
I'm not sure that that's the big issue. The big issue is how many miles are on it. I mean, obviously the year model does have an effect, but the mileage is the bigger thing.
Okay.
Where are we gonna, well, another thing I think is, what are we gonna pay for it out of? 'Cause
Right. That's exactly right.
Okay.
So we're not going to have a car until we say how much we're willing to pay for it,
Well, are we
and
gonna
then
pay
shoot
for
from
it
there.
out of the airport fund, the sales tax fund? Where's it gonna be
Well, I don't
paid
think the
for?
airport fund's got enough money in it, does it?
That's exactly right.
So it'd have to be some other fund.
10 years.
I'd go high mileage and probably get as low as you can.
Do we have to put anything into that money to get to the airport? If we have students out there, $750,000.
Yeah, we should be getting that money.
Do we have to put anything in for it, or is it automatically gonna come to it?
Well, no, that money will be earmarked for different things. It's for airport improvements. It wouldn't be for vehicles.
How much you want to spend?
Low mileage, car lasts you 10 years, $2,000 a year.
Hard to set a number on it, not really having I mean, it's kinda tough to throw a $1,000 amount out there, you know?
Well, I mean, I was looking at some of the surplus cars.
Yeah,
That's why-
yeah, I
that's why
understand
just
what you're
told
saying.
the
Can we
dollar
get some
amount out there.
prices
That's kinda what I'm getting at
and
there.
then bring them back to the table?
Well, I talked to the guy, and he said if you want to get like a compact car,
Yeah.
you know, high mileage, like 4,500. We've got nicer, 7,500. But you can keep on going, you know, 15,000, whatever you want to do.
No.
But just if you give me an idea, you know, because they there's only one guy that does this, and they have hundreds of vehicles.
Okay. Is there a list out there somewhere?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, can you get together and give us 4 vehicles to look at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
Low, high,
Oh,
mileage,
No,
low mileage, newer,
now.
same price range, we'll pick one. Can we do that? Okay, good.
Sure.
Do you want it now?
Oh, I'd love to go ahead and get it done, but whatever.
I'm prepared.
Okay. So, you're gonna and you have and your recommendation is to, that we get for a price of 4 vehicles, varying amounts and like that. Just hope that when we pick one, then it's not gone the next time we go back, right? I got it. Okay. What about the Carnell property, Lawrence?
Well, it's, we've got our contract going. There's something, I need to speak with the public administrator with respect to it.
Okay. All righty. Works for me. Okay. On the Marler project, we're waiting some easements to continue the work, and so.
Terry, you know where we are on the O'Reilly? I think that's the only one that's outstanding, isn't it?
The only one that's outstanding is O'Reilly, and, they give us a date as to when that would be done. The Marler, the round paving, that was recorded today. We have that easement, we have the easement behind the car wash. The only one we are waiting on is the one at O'Reilly's.
And that's what's stopping the work.
Well, they can continue on now around paving.
And what it is the original easement that the city had there. I think that they discovered that there's so many utilities in that easement already that it's crowded out and not able to place these. So we're having to try to scramble to get these easements at the last minute is what's going on.
But I did let the lady I speak with know that it is real important to us.
Okay. All right. Republic Services will be working on Monday, February the 19th, which is President's Day, and they did buy a new garbage truck. They brought it down here today for us to see, and it has dual operations in that it can both pick up the carts and also the dumpsters. And so if one gets behind on one, then they can, switch. They can use it either way. So it's a brand new truck, and it's assigned to Caruthersville, Hayti, and Hayti Heights. The Moreland Drive, as I've mentioned before, Waters and Associates is doing an engineering study. Is that done?
Yes.
Is it done?
Yes. I have that.
Okay. The Marler sidewalks, I've discussed that before. The rec center roof, they were working for a while, and then the wind got up, and then it got cold, and they said they need warmer temperature. I did try to call the gentleman today, but I didn't get him. Now on the drainage on East 19th, East 20th for James Strickland, and then that's an add-on to the GNC contract, and also an add-on for Bell south of East 9th, and so we voted on that and approved that. And then today I found out at about 2 o'clock that John Chittenden and Terry have an alternate plan to the above that we previously approved.
In the meeting with John Chittenden and Emery, the amount that was approved for those projects was $11,460, which was gonna be creating a ditch along Walker Avenue. It's gonna be putting in one drain on Bell Avenue. And meeting with John Chittenden and Emery and Barbara Rogers come out and met with us too over on Bell and Ninth Street. We're we're talking about putting in what they call a sea grate right there in the curve, which would take a lot of the water off of Ninth Street into those drains instead of letting it run down Adams. Or Bale, correction, Bale. Price of that, which would have to be done by a contractor, was $17,000. Right now, we're in the project at $105,000. We had $115,000 budgeted. These other projects, the ones that is down at 10th in Bale, and then over on 19th Street, could be done in-house. And on that front sheet, he listed your cost estimate, which is an approximate estimate of the materials. But he also listed what it would cost if the work was done by GNC contractor. The only thing that I see that we need to do is the sea grates at 9th and Bale. On the north side of Ninth Street is a drain, as Barbara can tell you, that stops up constantly. It's just a little 12-inch piece of pipe that goes through. She's seen us out there with pipe poles, pulling sticks out of it, trying to get it out of there to open that drain up. This would eliminate that problem. That would be able to be closed off, that area filled in, and the drain go through these sea grates.
So this is the cost to do it the way you're explaining now?
That would be the 9th and Bale,
Okay.
yes.
As opposed to,
As opposed to, the only other thing we had that was approved already was $4,000 or $5,000 grade, sitting right, between Ninth Street and your driveway, I believe it was.
4710.
Closer to Ninth and Bell than it would be my driveway.
But it doesn't take in all that water that comes off of Ninth Street, it'll just keep running on down Bale, all the way down to Adams.
Yeah, after you pass that, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I had asked originally, what we were told was that Terry and his crew could do in-house and it wouldn't cost the city these figures that we have here.
Now, this here is a sea grate, this takes in all
That's
the
what
water,
they decided to do then.
this takes in all the water off of Ninth Street instead of allowing it to flow around to there, it's this grate.
Right, but then what he's saying is, after you pass my house and Mr. Robinson's house, there's water steady sitting in the street all the way down to, Bell and Adams.
And
And it just sits there, it sits there, it sits there, it sits there, it accumulates trash,
And if you look at the next
bugs,
one,
snakes.
if you look at the next one at 10th and Bale, that is one that he's considering doing in-house,
Yeah, but
allowing
that
us to
still
go
doesn't,
in.
but that doesn't answer the issue that we have on the end of Bell and Adams,
Now, down at
because
the
that water
end,
just sits there.
down at the end in Bale, end of Bale and Adams, Mr. Emery had found a culvert that was completely covered.
Where? In there?
Yes,
So it's been covered for 18 years?
it's been covered for a long time.
18 years, I've been there
So
18
we
years.
can clean it out and we can wash that culvert out and it'll be utilized. I spent a lot of time over there with Mr. Emery and Mr. John over there studying this.
I'd like to ask a question though, because like I said, I've been there for 18 years. I've been on the council for 12 of those years. And each time that we get to Bell and Adams and Ninth Street, we always go backwards. We go back, we go back, we go back. We have spent, when we first started talking about Ninth Street and Bell, we brought up, West 19th Street, right? West 19th Street had the same issues that we had. I have a letter from my insurance company that, from the engineer, and we were rejected the, coverage of our flooring because of water, poor drainage water. And we was out there the other day, Mr. Henry, Embry, Mr. Embry and Terry said that the reason that they can't fill in those ditches is because the dirt would push the water back into the street. So my point is, so you would rather the streets not buckle, but my house buckle?
This, what we got right here is gonna address the issue of a lot of the water from running around to Bale.
I understand that part, but I'm not just concerned with my house. Just like I'm not concerned with just Ward 1. I look at the whole picture. We have houses on the end of Bale going toward Adams that connect there at that Y, that yearly, almost all year long, they're sitting there looking at that water in that ditch. And you telling me that there's a cupboard that has been there for 18 years
I don't know how long.
and nobody has ever cleaned it out enough that the water is not pushing back into the property.
I don't know how long it's been there.
Well, I've been there 18.
I do know part of this $91,000 project that was done at Ninth and Bale was to help give that relief down there.
It's not gonna give it relief, Terry. It's sitting full of water now. It's not gonna give it relief, and you know it, and I know it, and probably half of the city knows it. Because once we get to that Y, where that water's sitting there, then it's supposed to run on down Adams, and we have a drain there that the water goes backwards. It comes out, it don't even go in the drain. It comes out of the drain, and right next to, the young man that lives in the trailer, it goes back that way toward the railroad track. But it just sits there because there's no drainage back there. And it's not fair, it's not right, though we are a poor community in that area, it is not right for us to have to look at that all year long. We pay taxes like everybody else. Granted, my property ain't as expensive as yours, but I pay my taxes. And I think something should be done. I don't think we should have to do that over and over and over. Because pretty soon, they're gonna stop calling the mayor a lie, and they're gonna start calling me and you liars.
This Ninth and Bale is gonna relieve a lot of that issue.
Terry, it is not, and you know that.
Well, let me make sure I understand. The original plan that we voted on the last meeting was gonna cost $4,710.
To put in one drain pipe.
Okay, but now what you're saying is to fix it correctly, according, if I'm understanding this, it's gonna cost $17,030. So you're wanting to do something that's going to hopefully, if I understand Barbara, and maybe I don't, alleviate the problem better than what we voted on the other day. No, that's what I'm,
What this is gonna do is take all the water that is going
is that gonna solve the problem
East.
that they're having over there?
east. This will not completely solve the whole problem. It will give it relief.
Okay, what would solve the problem? I
That
guess
is-
is what I'm
That is a
asking.
low-lying area. The only way we would completely solve that problem there, it was to put in a pit and pump it over to the, stormwater pump station. Kinda is what we're doing, what we've done at Ninth and Bale right now.
So is this plan that you're proposing tonight going to give them more relief than the plan that we talked about the last meeting?
Yes.
Barbara, were you out there? Do
I was out there.
you contend that that's accurate?
What is going to happen is we're gonna go from my house with this plan that Terry's presenting. It's It's gonna go from my house, which I sit on half a block. It's gonna go from my house to Pat's house to, that's 10th Street, right?
Yeah,
And that's where it's going.
That's where cross drains going there.
And that's where it's going. So we have Miss Young's house, we have Mr. Smith's properties, we have Miss Laura's property, we have the young man in the trailer, there's several houses that's down there, and nothing is gonna be done about that.
And then you got the culvert that we didn't know nothing about
Yeah, that's the
in the
culvert.
corner, that
Yeah.
it will be cleaned out.
But Terry, we do that all over the city, and you know it don't do any good, because by the time the crew gets to our area, then nothing's done. Nothing's done, because they're busy on other parts of the city cleaning out drainages. That's just like Joe Prather, and I'm assuming that's probably what we'll have to do. Joe Prather, when we get a big rain, he has to go out and dig drainage from his property over to the, what is that called?
The storm drain.
The storm drain, so that water will drain off of his property. So my insurance agency is telling me that in order for me to have drainage off of my property, I'm gonna have to dig a ditch from my property over. But you're gonna fix that problem. But if we go down the street to my neighbor's property, then they're gonna have to dig drainages to get that water off their property, and it's sitting right in the streets. It's in the streets now. It's in the ditches now, accumulating trash and diseases and snakes and bugs.
Yeah, I can help all the trash.
I'm not, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not asking you to come clean the trash. We clean the trash when it gets really bad. We clean that.
I looked at this.
What I'm talking about is,
I looked at this.
we go, Terry,
I looked at this with the engineer,
I
and the
understand.
engineer says to try to give you the best relief that you can get over there.
well, Terry, answer this question for me, since you throwing that out there like that. The other day when you and I was talking, after Mr. Emery had left, you had some projects that you was doing. And I think we're playing good cop, bad cop around here. Because you tell me one thing, and you say you can't get your work done because the mayor tells you to stop doing things. Then the mayor called me, and then the mayor said, well, Terry this and Terry that. So I said, well, Terry is not supposed to make the decision. He's just supposed to follow through with the orders that he gets. So how are you making the decisions when the council have already approved things, and the mayor said he don't know nothing about what you do? It's a good cop, bad cop.
I brought with what I knew nothing about, as I told John, send me what drawings you have, cause I haven't heard nothing about this. I don't wanna put one little drain in here that's gonna not help the situation. I'm here to help drain the city.
It would be a better thing for that area over there if you would, since you're at 10th and Bell, to move down to Bell and Adams, because that is where the majority of the water moves out at. I asked about some milling, I asked about some dirt that we have been digging around here in the city, and I was told by you, Terry, that if we don't ask the contractor for that dirt and that milling, then it goes to the contractor. We could take that dirt and we could take that milling and we could fill up some ditches in the areas where poor people are living and being exposed to all this junk. It's just junk. And we're supposed to make decisions for everybody. We're supposed to make decisions for the poor as well as the richest person in this community. And every time we start looking at
If you
something,
fill in the ditches, you have no place
right,
for
the water's
to
gonna
go.
come back in the street. So now we don't fill in the ditches because the water is going back on my property.
I mean, to me, it don't make a difference. We
I
can
know
drop
you're
the
right.
whole project.
We don't have to drop the whole project. It's not in your hands. You don't make that
It is
decision.
in
let's
my
ask-
hands, cause I'm
No.
over street and sanitation, and I'm trying to
But if
improve.
the council has given you something to do, then it needs to be done, and you're supposed to look at the issue, and you're supposed to come up with ideas and plans along with Mr. Chittington that is best for that community. And it is not best for that community if we've got water that's still sitting here in that ditch that we're supposed to go get cleaned out, and we know everybody in town
And
knows
what I
that
was
water is
told-
not gonna get cleaned out.
And
You know
what I
that.
was told, when this was approved, these two projects that was approved by the mayor, they was not aware of what those projects really consisted of.
Why not? Why wasn't the mayor? Why didn't the mayor know it?
Didn't you go out there?
He knew about it, but I'm saying the council wasn't fully aware what the project
So whose
consisted of.
position was it to bring it back to the council?
I brought it back.
Okay,
I asked questions.
after talking with the mayor?
Okay, regardless, we have to make a decision. Do we want to spend more money and fix it and get it done right? Or at least alleviate more of the problem than there is right now?
My point is, Mayor, and I know, my point
She
is
wants to
just
raise
like,
her house up on a mountain.
why would I, Terry? If I could have what I wanted to have, I'd be out there in the country with you. In a good house,
Well, hang on a minute.
fenced in,
Which,
looking good.
Barbara, would it make you?
No,
Hey,
JJ.
no, wait, I'm
no.
gonna ask.
I just wanted to ask him one thing before he said that. Now, we was looking at the corner of Ninth and Bell going north. And for years, couple of years, 3 or 4 years, 5 or 6 years, we was told that there's drainage there and we gonna keep it cleaned out and the water is gonna flow.
Now, what I was gonna ask
And the
was,
water it's not being cleaned out the way it's supposed to. Sometimes I get my boys to go over there and clean it out so the water can flow. Sometimes one of the terrorist boys might come over, men might come over there, sometimes they don't. So what we're talking about tonight, if we don't make the decision to do the entirety of that project, then it's just, we're right back where we were.
well, what I was gonna say was, if I'm understanding correctly, the proposal that you have in front of us now, and this email's from Mr. Chittenden, would better alleviate the problem than what we voted on at the last meeting. But if we're not confident of that, I was gonna suggest maybe we have Mr. Chittenden come and explain to us which one of these would resolve the problem. Cause I do agree, we don't just need to keep throwing money after money after money and still keep having the same problem. So, I mean, I think what I'm hearing Terry say is the original plan was not going to do what we had hoped it would do, but this plan that Mr. Chittenden has sent you now would better alleviate the problem. It's gonna cost more money, but it's gonna, is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
And
And
then
then we're
some-
under budget 10,000.
And then and some of the other projects that wanted to be done can be done in-house, saving engineering expense, saving contractor expense.
Meaning the East 19th project you could do in-house
Yes,
and save money that we could throw toward that project. Is that
yes,
what I'm hearing?
yes.
I may need to back up 24 months to 36 months. But did we not drive around Adams 2.5 years ago when it was water and we discussed this and we talked about this and then we spent a bunch of money getting a bunch of stuff cleaned out on that side? Was that not supposed, so that didn't work? Okay, so we're just now talking about it now again because we got this other, so I am in agreement that John needs to come back and say what's best to fix it. And I hate that we didn't know that what we did and spent all that money on the beginning 2.5 years ago, if not longer, that we drove through water and we all went over there and looked at it. But, you know, we've gotta start somewhere, but if we want the whole project, then nothing needs to be approved, nothing needs to go forward.
Right.
So,
Until we know
John
what
does
we're
need to
doing.
come and say, this is what's gonna fix it, because I believe we've had this discussion before,
We
and
have,
now we're having it again, and we're trying to fix something else.
we have.
So we never have fixed what we thought we were fixing to begin
We
with,
have.
which was 2 years ago.
We have, and we paid Mr. Chittington good money for that. And then after Mr. Chiddington leaves, then the plans gets changed. And it doesn't happen. And so we're just sitting there, going back and forth.
I think that was BP.
Good cop, bad
BP
cop.
that come in and done that.
They cleaned out drains all over the place, that we had all this money spent, we did all this, that they're supposed to move the water off, and
And they did.
Which I can honestly say, Waters and Associates was not able to complete their survey before BP was brought in to start cleaning.
so,
But that's not the residents, see, that's falling back on the residents again, because somebody decided to tell BP or whoever they were to change the plans. But we are still sitting there, and the community is still sitting there, and the children are still sitting there. And I bet you, and I'm not a gambling person, but I bet you $100 next year this time, we'll be discussing the same thing. Because it's just push back, push back, push back. Yes,
I'll
we
make
will.
sure that doesn't happen.
well, I do
Let's
think that
get
we should
John
have
out.
John here, but I also agree that we have some other issues that we can see around town that we can't fill in ditches. Ditches are there for a reason. Don't care how good your yard looks, that it's all flat, but you can't fill in a ditch. So
Some-
that's
you want to
that's
take
the
all the
last
water
thing that we need
Yeah.
to do. So we need to have an engineer that comes in and tells us this is what we need to do, and stick to the plan.
Well, I guess I need to clarify what I was saying when I was saying about filling in the ditches with the dirt, excess dirt that's there, and the excess milling that's there.
Right.
I did say that there's a lot of areas in Caruthersville that could use that milling and that could use that dirt instead of giving it to the contractors. So that needs to be addressed as well. Instead of showing favoritism to certain people in the community. You know, we're supposed to be better than that. This is 2018. And when are we gonna start treating people like people? Let's say we pay mosquitoes, they come down there and they spray, and mosquitoes thrive off the spray. And that's because we got the water that sit there. That, if you was over there, if you lived over there, I'm gonna challenge our audience. Drive past Dale and Adams, there's a Y. It used to be the old Checker grocery store in there. Drive past there when it rains, and then a week later, go back over there and look at it. And the water will still be sitting there, accumulating.
I'll call Mr. Chittenden and ask him to attend our February 19th meeting.
And I think when Mr.
20th.
Chittenden comes, I think we need to do what he advises, instead of wasting his time and wasting the city's money. We don't do it.
20th, sorry. Thank you. Okay. The East 20th project, we did get 3 engineering firms, and we're going to start that process in 2018. Light up Caruthersville, Ameren, there's still 615 lights, CV lights, but now there's more of LEDs, and so now we're up to 26.3%. There's 162 LEDs now. President's Day, the city offices will be closed on Monday, February 19th, and skipped one, sorry. Heart to Heart, I met with them in Hayti, and they promote healthy communities in the heartland and rural health. And I met with a woman named Janice Ballard, and she'll be here tomorrow and possibly on Wednesday. And they're looking for office space in the area, and I'll be assisting her in securing office space in the area. And there will be some jobs that will be created when they do end up here in this area. So I'll be working with her tomorrow. Then let's see, I already did that. Okay, next thing is police report.
One thing I'd like to ask the council, got a recommendation for a hire. His name is Ben Gilkey. He worked 1.5 years as a police officer on the streets, and then he worked 2 years in the jail as a jailer and a deputy. And now he's working at Caruthersville at the prison as a prison guard. We would like to go to work here for the
you wanna explain the other guy we hired didn't
Oh, okay,
come,
the other guy we hired, about a month or so ago, I called Keela and talked to her about it. Come to find out, once his post test went to he graduated the academy, and once his post test went to the state, came back, he failed the Missouri Constitution, US Constitution, and they told him he would have to wait a year. He could take it again in 6 months or go back to the police academy, so he said he'll wait a year, so he's not gonna be employed here.
what's the guy's name?
Benjamin Gilkey.
What's it, step B?
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Meredith,
Yes.
Grantham,
Yes.
Rogers, Duckworth,
Yes.
Littleton,
Yes.
Partee,
Yes.
Rittenberry.
Yes.
Okay. Let me, Tony, what's his name again?
Benjamin Gilkey, Gilkey.
Okay, fire,
Fire calls from January 18th through February the 5th. On the 18th, we went down to Eastwood, reported gas odor, nothing detected. On the 19th of January, 111 West 12th Street, fire alarm sounding due to cooking. Also, the 19th, went to 155 412. It's 9.2 mile marker, 911 reported a fire in the woods. On the 20th, at 24 Riverview Apartments, we did a medical lift assist twice, once at 1:30 a.m. when the gentleman's bed broke, and then they got a new bed, and we went back 3:45 to help him back in the house. On the 21st, 2702 Broadway, a structure fire with moderate damage to the bedroom. On January 24th, 103 Taven Apartments, reported to 911 of smoke in the area. Wound up being a trash pile burning on County Road 344. January 25th, 1442 County Road 351, fire alarm sounding due to cooking. January 27th, 305 Truman Boulevard, structure fire with moderate damage. On February the 3rd, 108 County Road 325 for a structure fire, a storage trailer and boat was destroyed. And today at about 1:30, went to I-55 northbound at 12.2 mile marker for a grass fire, which is out of control on the east side of the interstate. Training for the month of January is practicing with the new MSA self-contained breathing apparatus. There were 17 firefighters in attendance. There were 5 fire inspections conducted from January 29th through February the 5th. Firefighters discussed at our last meeting to donate 2 rural fire subscriptions to the annual R3 party to be held on February 23rd. The value of each subscription is $100 each, and I would like to have the city council approval to donate 2 of these subscriptions to the R3 party.
So moved.
Second. Meredith,
Abstain.
Grantham,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Duckworth,
Yes.
Littleton,
Yes.
Partee,
Yes.
Rittenberry.
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't have anything.
nothing? Okay. Code enforcement,
I'm working on several.
stand up, please.
Working on several letters, and as stated in the last meeting, the date for the time to abate the nuisance will be in March as opposed to the 2 weeks because of the weather pattern we have. It's okay one week and it's freezing next week. So, whatever letters I'm sending out, I will start going around surveying those properties in March, the latter part of March. And, I'm focusing on derelict, is that what it's called? Derelict. Okay, I will get it right. Derelict cars as well. And I don't know, I need to talk with Lawrence, but included in those letters, I do wanna put advertisement for companies that will come and pick up those cars. Like they'll pay you $100 to $300 to pick up old vehicles. But I don't wanna include it in a letter without getting permission from Lawrence, cause I don't know if we can do that. I'm continuing to offer service, clerical service, with the collector's office. She has caught up on a lot, and they have a lot more to go, but they have been working really hard, as they have every year. So I'm not saying the collector's office just started working hard this year, but being able to see the amount of work that they have done this year and previously, there's a lot of work going to our collector's office. So kudos to Rebecca Morgan, and kudos to the lady that was in there prior to Rebecca, because they work very hard. And we are continuing partnership with Caruthersville, and we have another volunteer coming. So, that's all, thank you.
Are you only focusing on residential, or are you looking at businesses as well?
For my letters,
Mhm.
all together, there's some businesses that,
Have you noticed at Churchill's on the levee side that there's a Cadillac that's out there with no tires on it? And that we're on that side, it's starting to, you're instructed to what?
with Churchill's, I was instructed to leave them alone for a period.
By who?
I'd rather not say it. I'd rather not say it.
Well,
I
kind
mean,
of goes
I
back
like
to what
that
Barbara
bullet.
said.
Was it our counselor, city counselor that instructed you to that?
No,
Okay.
no. It was in-house, and so I'm just following. If you all want to talk to me, closed session, you can. But I was instructed to, and
Can the city council give her directive to do what she needs to do with any business? I mean,
Sure, yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Okay.
exclude anybody.
any business, any home, any property, I mean, you know, if we've got a problem, we have a problem, unless there's a good reason why we wouldn't address a problem, which maybe there's something we don't know about why some businesses are left alone and others aren't, but, I mean, that's just not, I mean, if we've got a problem, we've got a problem, and that's one of the biggest problems we have in this city is code enforcement and that particular property. I mean, I'm not getting on to you, I'm just saying, we need to maybe talk to Lawrence and see, or somebody, and get some direction so we can move forward.
okay. Any other complaints? I'm not sensitive, so I'll.
Okay.
Cemetery, I don't think we have any report, thank you. Okay, and Parks Recreation, and Wes is not here tonight.
Oh, excuse me, I like to clear the minds of people. It was not the mayor that told me to, to leave Bob Churchill alone, so it was not him.
Okay. The, on the budget,
Yes, I do. In front of you, you have a report that I wanna go over with you briefly. Because I was able to get the December financials this weekend, and since I was at home with nothing to do but take medicine, I had time to, I got a lot done. But the first thing, let's look at this one, and the department heads, let's look at this report first. The department heads have a copy of this, cause I'm gonna ask them to look at their budgets. And then you've got this, which I wanna talk about second, that's color coded. But what caught my attention was that our general fund balance was in the red. And at the end of December, it's not in the red now, I don't suppose, but at the end of December, it was in the red, $7,705.95. Well, I went back and pulled the financials for the last 5 years in December to see if that was typical, because sometimes even at school, our finances will run low until we get taxes collected. And then, you know, we start building that fund balance back up. But if you look at the fund balances in 2013, 14, and 15, they were several $100,000. And then in 2016, it was $92,580, and in 2017, this year in December, we're minus $7,705.95. So then I started looking at the revenues to see what might be causing that. And if you can see in in the tax collections, there was only 69,457 deposited through December. And you can see in previous years, other than 2016, there's in the neighborhood of 215 to 230,000 deposited. So then I checked a little bit further with Doug, and on January the 25th, there was a $266,000 deposit made of tax collections, and 141,000, it went to the general fund. It's on your little piece of paper right there. So even at that, the checking account balance also concerned me, because in 2013, 14, and 15, we had $600,000+ in December in our general fund, and in this December, we had 125,000 in our general fund. And that's alarming to me. It may not be alarming to anybody else, but it's very alarming to me. Even with the 141,000 that we now know has been deposited, you can still see we're about 300,000 in our general fund in December. And most likely, hopefully that's gonna go up, because hopefully there's gonna be some more collections. And hopefully the expenditures, maybe the bulk of them has already happened, but that's something that really needs to be watched very, very closely, very closely. Then I went on the next page, and I thought, well, I'm gonna look at the total of all accounts. And you can see in December, typically we have 5 million, 4.8 million one year, 5.3 million one year, 4.5 million in this year. In December, we have 3,954,000. So that's, that's alarming. That's down about $500,000 from last year, and plus it's down considerably from how we ended the year. So I went ahead and looked at the sales tax fund, and I'm not gonna go through these all one by one, because I want you to take them and look at them. I've asked the department heads to look at them, but these are just revenues. Just revenues. The other place, I don't really see a big problem at this moment with sales tax fund, but we've got several expenditures out there, I know. The sewer extension fund, the collections were down because they weren't deposited. They're probably in there now, but you can see there were only about $25,000 deposited in 2017 and 16 respectively, as opposed to 75 to 78,000 in the years previous to that. And you can look at the cemetery fund, again, you can see that because the collections weren't deposited, you can see that those deposits, those revenues are really down. But they're probably in there now. And you go on over, the library fund concerns me somewhat, because we've made $121,000 transfer from the general fund to date to cover expenses there. The good news about that is, in January, we'll start seeing tax collections going into the library fund, and hopefully then we can start backing some of that out, Teresa. So,
Well, remember, you put in 3 air conditioning
yes,
units.
so that's something else. And I'm gonna talk about expenditures in a minute that'll offset some of that. But that, I was talking to Doug today, and I said, well, when she starts collecting taxes, hopefully we can get some of that back. So that's, we'll see that. The sanitary fund is down, but again, you can see the tax collections in 17 were 20,000 as opposed to typically 55 to 65,000. So the collections are there, they just want deposited, and that's maybe not a big deal, but it is if your checking account gets down so low that your fund balances run low. And the economic development fund, I told y'all this when we did the budget, is currently $25,000 in the hole, and we still have expenses to come out of that. So what's happening now is he's transferring out of the general fund to offset the economic development fund, but that's not something I think we wanna continue doing. I think that we're already absorbing expenditures out of the tourism fund, now we're absorbing expenditures out of the economic development fund, and before you know it, we're gonna be absorbing all these expenditures out of the general fund that we don't have. We don't have the money there to do that.
But, question, why do we not have crops for 2016 and 17? I thought we fixed that.
At what?
Crops.
There's not anything in there right now. If there's been collections that hasn't been deposited. So there may be some collections coming in, but it's not there. The tourism fund, I don't know what's happening there, we've talked about it. We've got $769 collected so far this year. You know, that's typically where we pay for the fireworks and some of that stuff out of, but we don't even have the money to do that now. The fund balance is $2,100. So you can, and there's nothing, no expenditures budgeted there, so that's not gonna get any better if we don't start collecting some tourism tax. And I know you were looking into that, Lawrence, but
Yeah, I've talked to the attorney for the current owner of the property, and I've had pretty good discussions with him, and I think that we've got things ironed out on a going forward basis. There's issues regarding the solvency of the prior, owners of our operators of the hotel.
and then you look at sales tax capital improvement, that fund concerns me somewhat because we've still got a lot of expenditures to come out that has not, you know, that's, and the sales tax from January on to May, we have to keep in mind, in the previous years, we had Walmart, and we're not gonna have it, you know, we don't have it this year. Really, the sales tax not as down as much as I thought it would be, but I'm not sure that this is totally accurate, because when I look at those sales tax reports we get from month to month, it shows a different picture. So we need to dig into that a little bit. The community revitalization fund is, there was some discussion about maybe combining economic development and community revitalization, but you can see that that fund eventually will play out, and we wouldn't have as much in there right now if we deposited that money from that land sale in community revitalization, which gave us $25,200 that we wouldn't have had if we hadn't sold that land, and we won't have in the future. So there's some issues there, I think. And then a big concern for me, and I told Paul, I wanted him to really look over his budget and his expenditures and revenues, is the water fund and the sewer fund, because as of this date, we have transferred, and I don't know if I got this on here correctly, but Doug's sitting back there, but we're transferring out of the water fund to cover the sewer fund. And the sewer fund is, if you look up at the top, or the water fund, I mean, you can see our fund balance is really down compared to previous years. And I don't know how much longer you're gonna be able to transfer out of the water department to cover the sewer department. Not much longer at the rate we're going. And so you can see your sewer checking account balance in December, the last line on there was $25,215. And it's always been, in 2013, it was $558,000, 2014, it was $415,000, 2015, it was $505,000, and then that was almost cut in half last year, and then this year, it's really down. So, and of course, your wastewater bond fund is fine, there's some other funds I didn't get on here because I was running out of time. If you look at the report, this report, all I had time to do, I went over the expenditures, and I went through and highlighted, if it's highlighted in pink, and so y'all, department heads, you can go to your departments and look at this. Pink is over budget, right now, 50% of the way through the budget year. Blue is, it's either 50% or more over, but we've spent 50% or more of the budget, which that really is not a good gauge, other than you can, there's some things you're gonna spend right up front, and you are gonna spend more of the budget. And then there's other things that should kinda just trickle, from month to month, and you ought to be able to gauge it a little bit better. And if you see an orange line, that means that fund is over budget by 60% right now. And so that gives you a place to start, department heads, and looking and seeing what the problem is. Now, I do know under administrative, I don't think that, Donnelly's been, the salaries are up, we're over 50% of the budget, we shouldn't be, salaries should be pretty much right on target. But we know we've got Donnelly in there, we have to move out. And then we've got some other, the cleaning hours were never budgeted. So those, I'm still waiting on, budget amendment for that. The other thing is, Paul found where he thinks maybe, he may be getting coded to sewer instead of water, and I can check that easily. I can check the salaries and I can check the benefits and see what the problems are there, if there is a problem. But I can't check the rest of it, cause I don't monitor this budget from day to day. But I want to just say that I'm concerned about what I'm seeing. And I would like to ask the council to give an accountant, and I would recommend it be Doug, but if you don't wanna use Doug and you wanna use another accountant, I'm sure he'd be fine, to take this and look at it seriously and give us some guidance before we sit here and find ourselves in a really pickle, okay? When I did the budget, I gave a written report, and I told you all some funds that I thought were gonna be in trouble, and they're playing out to be true. And so we need to get a handle on this, because as Barbara said earlier, and as we all say, we're obligated to do to provide services to the citizens of this community, and we can't do it if we don't have the funds. And we can have the funds if we will be more frugal and be more wise in how we're spending this money in some areas. But we can't help sales tax being down. It's gonna be down until we draw some businesses in here. You can't help it if your property taxes are down, if you're losing population. But if you're gonna lose revenues, you gotta adjust your expenditures. It's just that simple.
Exactly.
And Doug, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I'll be glad to help you.
Would y'all, do we need to take a vote on that for him to help us, or as our accountant, can he just do that and provide a written report to us?
I think you're gonna have extensive work done on something like that. I think it'd be good to have direction from, by both.
I'll make a motion, allow Val to, just take a look into this.
Second. Meredith,
Yes.
Grantham,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Duckworth,
Yes.
Fullerton,
Yes.
Partee,
Yes.
Yes.
Rittenberry.
May I ask what your time frame would be?
The sooner the better. I know you're in tax season, but I would like to ask the department heads to keep an eye on this and just hold off on anything that we don't have to spend money on right now until we can get a handle on it.
Well,
I mean,
one thing I would like to request of the department heads, I think you need to look this over fairly closely, and if you, because I think we're still having some coding issues as far as some things being miscoded. For one thing, I think the employee benefits in administration is way too high, so I'm wondering if maybe, for example, the work comp is somehow getting coded to that account instead of getting spread out over everything like it's supposed to, and Tequila probably would have to help us with that too. But I think the department heads really need to take a look at it and maybe give us some direction, give me some direction. Is if you think there's an issue with a particular line item or something, so we can at least do some investigating on that, because.
Would you like to have a point person that all questions go to them and then they all come to you?
Are you volunteering to do
No, but I can find somebody over there.
that? That would be good, yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing I'd like to ask you all is if you see a budget area that you haven't spent a lot of money, that doesn't mean go spend it. Because the bottom line is the bottom line fund balance in your department. And if you'll notice, I've put a percentage at the bottom of how much you've spent so far in that department. And like I said, there's just certain things like it's gonna get paid in the first 3 or 4 months of the year, so your expenditures are gonna be up and then they'll level off. But there's some things that just really stick out to me, and I know they're gonna stick out to you when you look at them. And, I would suggest that you send an email maybe to me or Doug or what, just send an email. That way it's a paper trail, and then when he has time, he can check it. And I would be willing to try to check on it myself if it's something I can handle, because I know I'm gonna go in and correct Donnelly's salaries and benefits and that. Paul and I've already talked about that.
That, we're actually gonna do that in January.
So that'll make a difference when you look at the administration, that'll level some of that out a little bit as far as salaries and benefits.
Found my point person.
Okay.
I found my point person.
I'll be
No,
glad.
Jeff,
Well,
I've
I've
been in
gotta
just a
work on it
second.
anyway, so, anyway. But anyway, I just wanna make y'all aware.
Thank you.
Okay, y'all can look at those reports as easy as I can, so if you don't trust trust me, go look at your report, so, and you'll see it, it's right there.
Thank you. And I have a little input that I'll give you a little bit later, okay, on this subject. Thank you. Next is library.
Well, we have some good news. We're one of 9 libraries across the state that were selected to be a part of the EDGE cohort, which basically is a management tool where we can take an assessment, which I've already done, that helps libraries across the state align their technology services to the needs of the community. We've done the assess, we're working on the plan, we will then implement and then communicate with community leaders as well to make sure we're doing what the community needs for us to do with technology. And when I looked at our results, they break it down by size of the library, and we're in level 2 because we're 5 to 10,000, and we were 200 points over all the others in our level. So we're doing things in the right direction, but we can always get better too, and that's what this plan will show us.
Thank you.
Very good.
Water sewer.
Things we've been working on, we got a 6-inch water main leaking on 3rd Street. Various guys helped us do that, so we'll get that done. The well line at the water plant has been completed, they did that for us too. Today they worked on a service line at Churchill's old dealership, or there by the roundhouse, there was a line that was leaking there. Leak on West 18th, leak at the Cotton Warehouse, leak on 205 Poplar, and they did some box work at the new Bank of Missouri. The annual service for the trencher was performed by Ditch Witch last week. I attended the DNR rules meeting in Jeff City last week. That was about some of the stuff they're trying to do in the regs. We had a lot of heartburn with some of the wording they had in there, so there's a lot of people across the state went to that, voiced their concerns on that. We have a class next week at the Armory. It's a free class for all of our guys on the water recertification hours. And the last thing, in our wastewater permit, we have to be compliant, which was, they have to add an ultraviolet dissipation system by 2020. So we need to start looking how we're gonna fund that. That's all I've got.
How are we doing on the claim for our cyber attack we had last year?
It's been turned into Mark. I haven't heard anything from it.
Can you check on that, see where we're at? It's like, how many, do you know how much we're claiming?
Well, I think 23,000.
Did you want to check on that too?
Okay. Josh?
The bid process for the city's health insurance is moving along. Working with Lawrence to get the information together to have our agencies local have an opportunity to bid on that. I believe he's got just about everything he needs, and those bid packets and the notice to run in the paper should be ready by next week. And then we'll also make contact with the current carrier to see what they're gonna offer as far as renewal goes, so that we know what that option would be whenever we get ready to compare, so.
Will the bid packets be available here at City Hall?
I think that's the best place for it.
That's what we'll do then.
Yeah.
What did you say?
Yes.
So we think it will run next week?
Yes.
All right. Call for business from the floor. Please stand, identify yourself. If you're having business from the floor. Yes, sir.
My name's John Bailey. I was just curious who manages the Veterans Park over here. I was curious about the flags. They're kind of tattered, both the American flag and the Missouri flag. I was wanting to see if we can get those taken care of. I don't know if it's city property or who manages it or what.
In particular, where was it?
The Veterans Park right here beside us?
Right outside?
Yes.
I took it down.
What's that?
I took it down.
No, I'm saying the where the helicopter is.
Oh, where the helicopter
Yes,
is. I don't know how that. Do you know how that works? Is it you have to have a key to get in it?
West handles that, the rec center.
The rec center takes care of that.
I mean, it's just, it's tattered and stringy. And
Okay.
so, that's it.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay. More business? Yes, sir.
My name's Jared Harmon. I don't know about the rest of the town, but I got a pretty good problem with coyotes out southwest side of town. And I'm wondering, is that a city problem, or does it go to, some other place, or what? Who do I talk to? I'm doing what I can to kill them, but I can't kill them. Is there something we can do for it, or what? I know they had an attack on Pine Street, somebody almost lost their pet, so, does it take, some little child to get hurt before we do something?
I couldn't see what
It's
he
starting
said.
to get
He's
out of
talking
hand.
about
The coyote problem, and do we have a
Who's
solution for the
problem?
coyote problem?
I was about to say, I'll get ahold of Brian Shelton.
Yeah.
He's aware of it, isn't
See if he can get some more traps set up.
I'm just thinking somebody's gonna get hurt, like a little child or something, because it's getting pretty rough out there. And right now is their season, they're starting to mate right now, so it's
There,
pretty rough.
there was a video on Facebook, one as big as the German Shepherd, right? Went across, from industrial, across right there where the showcase is, back out there. Pretty big.
I had two, right? I got one like going down industrial road.
Legally, I don't know what you can do. I mean, I don't know, I know what I would do, but I can't tell you that. But, anyway. There have been bobcats in town too. Anyway,
Well, I've
any,
got- hang on a
yes,
second. Going back to another thing that I think is a concern is that the rec center admissions are, they were down quite a bit last year, and they're down even more this year. I mean, it's something, that's something we're gonna have to pay attention to. So, I just wanted to point that out, we're
Okay.
sitting here. And I wanted to ask you to, what we paid Moperm this year seems to be what we paid them in December. Every area was under budgeted, and I budgeted it based on last year, I guess.
Yeah.
So could you check and see what the difference is in what we paid this year as opposed to last year?
I'll do that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
all right. Any other business from the floor?
What about, where are we on the audio and video that we discussed at the last meeting?
Well, Randy, and I discussing with you, and we're looking possibly at using the municipal court building. And, so that's where we are. It'd be a lot less expensive and a lot more, conducive to a meeting.
I think it'd be great.
And, so anyway, it's, and allows a lot more room. I don't know, you know how much space?
There's
This is
a lot
only-
of seats, there's a lot more seats there.
When do we plan to make that change?
Well, he's gonna have to get the wiring done and all that stuff, so he's working on it. I know that at least looking at it and how much it's gonna cost for the microphones and stuff.
You know, we had wireless
told me
mics
they're
there.
already
already.
there.
Yeah, we've got wireless mics
said
already.
they're already there, that's
We
why-
don't use them, cause we
yeah,
pretty
of
well,
course.
they usually work pretty well, you know,
He
we hear
told me there
everything.
was, I think, 3 there, and he was trying to figure out a way to get some more of them, or something.
Maybe.
Okay,
So it'll be done fairly soon, but
okay, I think that's good.
not quite yet. Any other business from the floor? Okay, resolutions and motions. You got anything? All right, next on the agenda, adjournment.
Need to go to closed session, please.
For
which purpose?
Property and legal.
property and legal.
The second.
Second.
Meredith.
Yes.
Grantham.
Yes.
Rogers.
Yes.
Duckworth.
Yes.
Littleton. Partee.
Yes.
Rittenberry.